Good morning, neighbors. My plunging neckline and I would like to talk to you about something. Recently, there was an exchange between two creators. A wonderful creator who goes by Midnight Emporium, and a Norse Talk creator who I'm not going to name to not bring him any heat, though I have come to his defense many times. Anyway, due to a misunderstanding, these two have patched it up, but a question was asked. One that's been stuck in my craw for 3 days now. The Norse did some pretty bad things. Why would you want to be a Norse pagan? And I've thought about this a lot lately, and I came to one simple conclusion. Well, yeah, everybody did back then. Christianity did back then too. Some of those evil things, yes, including slavery, sacrifices, and a lot of other bad stuff we would look down on today. But we weren't the only ones. It was the way of the world back then. Almost every culture in the world did back then, to some degree or another. Empires have rose and fell in that time. And in fact, Norse paganism actually died out for a while. But it's making a comeback. Much like the odd to me and compelling traditions that go on in Appalachia that, Midnight Emporium goes over. Everything has grown, changed, and been kept alive as nations rise and fall. And actually, I would argue we have a lot in common. I am a heathen. Today that sounds like bad manners, doesn't it? I do put my elbows on the table. And I'm sorry, this just looks silly when I eat. But it basically boils down to a person of the hearth, country folk. And while the Havamal isn't the Bible, it is a roof set of guidelines. And a lot of it has changed my perspective on many things. And as a former weapon of war, I believe I have a unique perspective that might lend aid to your ears. I have been both a soldier and a civilian. You can't judge a nation by its soldiers. The people are innocent. There are customs and traditions today that many consider barbaric. And often what it is a lack of perspective or understanding. In fact, that's how I viewed our Iraqi interpreter. Then I got to know him. And in fact, that was about the time I started reading the Havamal because I had lost my Christian faith. War will do that. And goodness no, it wasn't about national security or weapons of mass destruction. It was about resources, just like back in the Viking Age, or dare I say, many other ages. Up until, right now. And we have the freedom of religion in this country. We don't do any of the bad things that are illegal anymore. Neither does Christianity or any other religion. But we do sacrifice. Just not people. There are several branches in Norse paganism, and we all worship a little differently. Some pour out some mead, some put out a plate for the gods. But just like back in the Viking Age, there'd be a little bit of ceremony when the animal was slaughtered, and then we ate it. If we take the time to peel back the misconceptions of the soldiers or, Vikings, which was a job, and look at the actual history, it's a lot more complex than this simplistic take. Just like my Iraqi interpreter, who was promised a chance to come back to this country as a citizen, and is still over there. And much like that interpreter during the Viking Age, there were many conflicts and bad kings, so many struck out on their own, and they did what they had to survive. Romanticizing something is dangerous, yes. So is omitting the bad things from history. But we do not evolve if we do not learn to accept. And in the faith, we are having problems with that because some people just don't want to accept on both sides of the fence. Because U.S. politics creeps in. Just damn Nazis. That's a bad part too. All are welcome into Norse paganism. There is a kind of hard empathy to it, yes. And like any other religion, we have problem children too. But I'd imagine you've got some problem children out there in Appalachia too. And isn't it ironic that we're talking about this freely in a country that once had slaves, that has waged wars over resources, and dare I say, people working their butts off on a daily basis, sacrificing themselves to capitalism. In conclusion, I love you, Midnight Emporium, but I do what I want. It's a low-key thing. I can't nearly hope to change anybody's mind with just a video. But if you care to tune in, I live my truth here. And a lot of it is from the Havamal in one way, shape, or another. Depending on my mood, I read it differently every time. Much like philosophy and martial arts. And I would like to close this video with some homework for you and the people watching. Some wisdom from the Havamal. Really think on it and let it roll around in your noodle. Havamal, verse 142. And then I began to thrive. And wisdom to get, well was I. Each word fed me on to another word. Each deed unto another deed. If we don't learn from the past, we're doomed to repeat it. And the actions leading up to this very moment dictate our next. We're all about the next deed. And like the Norse back then, that many don't realize, we're big on community. So that's what we do here. This entire planet has done terrible things to one another over the ages, and if we followed this line of reason, there would be no religion in the world. However, I'm a big believer if you don't condemn the bad, then you condone it. Or as we say around here, speak out against evil and give it no rest. It's just the definition of evil has changed over all this time. Hope you have a great day, neighbor. Acha-cha-cha-cha.